Chapter 1. A Simple Life in a Tiny Village. In a quiet village surrounded by green hills and rice paddies, there lived a boy named Kai. His home was small, just wood and bamboo, with a roof that leaked every time it rained. He lived with his mom, his dad, and his little sister. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and honestly, that was enough. His dad worked the fields. His mom sold veggies at the local market. Every single morning, they were up before the sun, ready to grind through another tough day. Kai was only 12, but man, he already knew how hard life could be. He wore hand-me-down clothes and beat-up shoes. He carried his school books in a plastic bag because his family couldn't afford a backpack. But here's the thing, he never complained. Not once. He knew his parents were doing their absolute best, and he wanted to make them proud. Every day after school, Kai helped his dad in the fields. He hauled water, pulled weeds, and sometimes helped plant rice. His hands were small, but they worked hard. At night, after dinner, he studied by candlelight because the electricity came and went. Some days, he was exhausted. Some days, he felt like throwing in the towel. But deep down, he held onto a dream. Kai dreamed of something bigger. He wanted to become a teacher someday. He wanted to help other kids learn, especially the ones stuck in villages like his. He believed education could change everything. It could pull his family out of poverty. It could help his sister go to school. It could make their lives easier. But more than anything, it gave him hope. At school, Kai was the quiet kid, but curious as hell. He asked a million questions. Even when other students laughed at him, he didn't care. He loved learning. English was his favorite subject. He practiced speaking even when he was alone, standing in front of a cracked mirror, trying to sound like the people he heard on the radio. He figured if he got good at English, more doors would open up for him. But life in the village? Not easy. Sometimes the rains never came and the crops died. There were days when they barely had enough to eat. Kai had to walk 5 kilometers to school, and when it rained, the path turned into a muddy mess. Still, he never missed a day. Not one. He wrapped his books in a plastic bag and kept going. His classmates, they gave him a hard time. They laughed at his clothes. They made fun of his dreams. You think you're gonna become a teacher? They said. Look at yourself. You don't even have shoes. But Kai stayed quiet. He remembered what his dad once told him. People are gonna laugh at you, but never laugh at yourself. Believe in your dream, even when nobody else does. Kai took that advice to heart. At night, when the world was silent, he cracked open his books and studied. He memorized words. He practiced reading. He scribbled in a tiny notebook even when there was no space left on the pages. He didn't know how things would work out, but he believed something good would happen if he just kept going. His mom noticed how hard he was working. One evening, she brought him a little gift, an old English book she'd found at the market. It's not much, she said, but I know you'll put it to good use. Kai's face lit up. He opened that book and started reading right away. It became his treasure. He read it every night, over and over, until he knew every single word. Kai didn't have a computer, no internet, no tutor, no fancy language school, but he had something a lot of people forget about: pure determination. He knew that if he wanted to change his life, he had to start with himself. Wake up early, study hard, work even harder, never give up. Every day in the village looked the same: school, farm work, study, repeat. But Kai believed these simple days were building something great. He believed that one day, all the hard work would pay off. He didn't know when, he didn't know how, but he knew why. He wanted a better life for his family, for his sister, for himself. And so the boy from the tiny village kept going, quietly, slowly, but with a fire burning in his heart. Chapter 2. The first big failure. Kai was grinding harder than ever. Every morning, he was up before sunrise helping his dad in the fields. Then he'd rush to school, sit in the front row, and soak up every word the teacher said. After school, he studied alone with his beat-up English book, his tiny notebook, and his massive dreams. He was proud of how far he'd come. His handwriting had improved. His grammar was getting better. He could actually read English stories and understand most of them now. He even started helping his little sister with her homework. Deep inside, he thought, maybe I really can become a teacher someday. Then came the big English exam at the end of the school year. This test was a huge deal. If Kai passed, he'd get a scholarship to attend a better school in town. A school with computers, real English teachers, and an actual library. It was a dream come true. Maybe Kai studied like crazy. He stayed up late every single night. He practiced speaking out loud, repeated new words 1,000 times, and wrote short essays. He'd never worked this hard for anything in his life. His mom said, "We believe in you, Kai." His dad smiled with quiet hope. Everyone in the family was excited. Finally, exam day arrived. Kai woke up early, put on his cleanest clothes, and walked to school with butterflies in his stomach. In the exam room, he tried to stay calm. He read each question carefully and gave it everything he had. Some parts were easy. Others were way harder than he expected. When it was over, Kai felt pretty good. He walked home with a smile, already imagining what the town school would be like. He could see himself learning in big classrooms, speaking English with confidence, and someday coming back to the village as a teacher. But a week later, everything fell apart. The exam results were posted on the school wall. Students crowded around, pointing and shouting. Kai pushed through, searching for his name. He looked once, twice. His name wasn't there. He had failed. His heart sank. For a second, he couldn't believe it. He checked again, hoping he'd missed it. But the truth was right there, clear and painful. He hadn't passed. The scholarship was gone. The dream school, not happening. Everything he'd worked for, gone in a single moment. Kai walked home slowly, carrying a heavy weight in his chest. His mom looked at his face and understood. His dad said nothing, but the sadness in the room was thick. That night, Kai didn't open his books. He didn't light the candle. He just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Maybe I'm not smart enough, he thought. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I was just dreaming too big. The next morning, he didn't want to go to school. He felt ashamed. He imagined the other students laughing at him. He pictured his teacher looking disappointed. But then he saw his little sister getting ready, tying her books together with a piece of string. She looked at him and asked, "Are you still gonna help me with my homework today?" Kai looked into her eyes. They were full of trust, full of love. And in that moment, something clicked. His dream wasn't just about himself. It was about his family, about hope, about showing everyone that failure doesn't mean the end. It just means you gotta try again. That night, he picked up his book. He lit the candle. He opened his notebook and started studying. He didn't know when the next chance would come, but he made himself a promise. He would not quit. Failure had knocked him down, but it had also woken him up. It showed him how much his dream really meant. From that day on, Kai's heart got even stronger. He whispered to himself, "I failed once. That's true. But I'm gonna rise again. I'm gonna try harder. And I won't stop until I make it."